Hello and welcome to this really special program. As all of you know, Starbucks has just launched in India in partnership with the Tata Group. And we are now really privileged to have sitting with us Mr. Howard Schultz, who's the Chairman, President, and CEO of Starbucks, and also an honor to have Mr. Ratan Tata, who's the Chairman, of course, of the Tata Group, both sitting with us here. And we have an audience here of 50 of the brightest young people we could find from engineering and business schools, and we are, over the course of the next half an hour or so, going to be taking a look at some of the really crucial questions around new capitalism, around leadership, around what it means to be a corporate in the present world. But first, thank you both so much for joining us. And Mr. Schultz, welcome to India. It's been a long time. How's it like being here at last?
It's wonderful to be here. It's taken us, I think, much longer to come to India than I think we originally thought. But now that we're here and with the Tata Group, we could not have a better partner. I'd also like to say that it's an honor for me to share the stage with Ratan Tata. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard.
Mr. Tata, this is a partnership you've just the first store launched, and by all accounts, it's a beautiful, big store. Others will be following soon, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm very proud of this partnership because I think Howard Schultz shares many of the same values that we consider important, apart from the business issue. And I think in human chemistry and in giving to the customer, there's a richness in this partnership which you don't often see. So I feel very proud of being a part of this, and very proud to be a partner of Starbucks.
Is that relationship something that is very important to you, the fact that you share certain common DNA? Is that something that you were looking for?
Yes, it was. I think Starbucks has been fortunate enough to now do business in 60 countries. And in every one of these countries, when we've selected a partner, the business partnership was not selected on business acumen alone. It was primarily selected on trying to find people who had like-minded values. And I think not only have we found kindred spirits with everyone we've met from Tata, but I think we share an approach to business that is very important, not only in terms of the history of our respective companies, but perhaps more important for the future, and that is to try and balance profitability with a social conscience. I think it's more critical today than ever before, because the world needs a deep sense of humanity.
Mr. Tata, do you agree that social conscience is important, especially for corporates, and given all that has been swirling around India and what values should be, is that something that corporates should really keep an eye on?
Oh yes, I think we've lived by that mandate over the years, and I just think it's very refreshing to see a major successful corporation like Starbucks making that such an important part of their business DNA or their cultural DNA. And I think it's something that often you don't see, and it's not being done for publicity. It's being done for the satisfaction of having it happen. But Starbucks is, I think, to me, it was a great surprise to know what they did and how they did it.
All right. Why don't I dive straight into taking the first question? Who wants to kick this off?
Like both our leaders here mentioned that one would always like to work with like-minded people who follow the same values. So my question is that we as young leaders tomorrow would also like to imbibe the same. And the true test of a leader would be to ensure that all the stakeholders, the employees, the organization, other businesses, and the community at large also believe and live by such values. So how does a leader ensure that?
All I can say is the tone for the organization's DNA and the value system and the ethics has to be set at the top. You can't set it as a mantra that's there to hang on a banner and you operate differently. And I've often said you can't be responsible for or have control over the behavior of, let's say, 400,000 people as we have in Tata's. But when you have an aberration, how you deal with that is perhaps a good index of what message you send on the importance of people complying with your value system?
I've been asked many times, what has been the secret to success of Starbucks? And many people think it's marketing and things of that nature, when in fact it's none of that. Starting a business or building an enduring business, the HR discipline within a company is mission critical to the success. I've often said that building a company in a way is like a young child. You have to imprint with the right values, self-esteem, and as Mr. Tata said, they have 400,000 people, we have 200,000. Trying to make sure that we're modeling the right behavior and that the culture, the values, and the guiding principles are revered and valued as much as the profitability of the company. What I would also say is that I don't believe you can create long-term value for the shareholder unless you're linking long-term value for the employee. And I think if you don't do that, success will be very short-lived. I also don't think you can attract and retain great people unless they see an organization that they believe in and they trust.
Mr. Tata, if I could just ask a follow-up question to what you said. Here, right now in India, there's a lot of attention focused on issues like corruption, and a lot of people sometimes ask that we don't have a choice but to pay a bribe, but to follow certain practices. That's what it takes to do business in India. Would you agree with that?
I definitely feel that if everybody takes a view that that's what you have to do business, we're endorsing corruption. We have fought against that. We have, as I've often said, we have lost sometimes, we have been disadvantaged, but it's great to go home at night and say, I didn't succumb. So it's not, and I don't say that we have been mauled. We've done pretty well ourselves. We've grown in that environment on our terms. So I think it's possible, and I think the more people stand up and fight petty corruption, fight corruption as it comes, because we don't like to stand in line, we want to look important, and we like aberrations in the we hate equality for some reason. And I think people should endure a sense of all people being equal and should not mind doing whatever one has to do, but that you get what you deserve to get without being subjected to a corrupt practice.
Looking at the economic reforms that are coming in the country right now, a lot of economic reforms, we see it is for the betterment of the investment mentality of customers as well as companies. Does conscious corporate capitalism also is an ingredient for these economic reforms?
I would like to look at social consciousness as something that comes from within a company. You may legislate it, and then one hopes that when you legislate it, it's still used for that purpose. It's different when you're forced to do something, and it's different when you undertake to do something as part of your holistic view of doing business. So if in fact legislated social contribution is going to all go towards useful and purposeful social contribution, I think that's great. It's sad that it has to be legislated.
It should be coming voluntarily from people.
Theoretically, so, yes.
Now, what I would say is, I can't speak specifically to the regulations that may come from the government of India, but holistically, I would say the following, that the rules of engagement for a company today are changing, and they need to change. And the reason is that governments throughout the world cannot do everything. And we're certainly seeing that in the United States today. And as a result of that, the responsibility does fall on businesses and business leaders to do more for the communities they serve and the employees a part of the company. But in terms of social responsibility, I want to make one distinction, because I've seen it in the US. Standing up at a press conference and making an announcement or holding up a big check or issuing a press release is not social responsibility. That's marketing and that's hype. Social responsibility is completely integrating into your business model the values, the humanity, and the culture of the company and what it stands for in terms of what you are about. And I think, as Mr. Tata just said, if it's instituted from the government and it's not really coming from your heart or your conscience, I don't think it's real and authentic. I also think the consumer today is so well informed all over the world. They know so much because of the web and social media that we have proven as a company that our customers know so much about what we do, and we're not perfect and we're going to make mistakes. But our own research demonstrates that the value of Starbucks' performance is in large part because the consumer has a finite understanding of what we do in the community and what we stand for. And then secondarily, you can't attract and retain great people in a marketplace unless the people really believe in what the company stands for, because people want to work for a company that's larger in a sense than themselves.
Mr. Tata, in India, I know India Inc. often gets upset about various things the government is doing, but sometimes they speak out, sometimes they don't, on the question of reforms, for example.
You know, I think every business leader faces an issue sometimes that, or at some time, that he feels that he has no option if his conscience is to be clear, but to speak out and express his view. I had a similar experience many years ago when we had the communal riots in Bombay, and 300 or 400 people died, and it was communal between Hindus and Muslims, and Bombay was burning. And I went public on that. I saw people being killed. I thought citizens have to stand up and fight. So I raised that. The net result was I got hauled into the Sri Krishna Commission. I was in the witness box for 5 hours. And I remember the judge asking me, "You see, Mr. Tata, you shouldn't speak out." And I said, "If it happened again, I'll do it again." And I think every one of us goes through a dilemma where we have, just to be general, we have to say that we've done the right thing. We have to think we've done the right thing, whatever it takes. If the right thing is to keep quiet, it's to keep quiet. And if the right thing is to speak out, it's to speak out. And I think people expect that of a leader.
Right. So you would write the letter again if it came to it?
100 times over.
100 times over. All right, let me just shift the focus a bit to looking at some questions on leadership and leadership qualities. Who have questions on leadership here?
As young MBAs, we will be joining corporate sector soon. So I just wanted to know from your own experience, on what basis should we choose our first work assignments or jobs so that it helps us to take responsible choices later in our lives?
Presumably just be what the paycheck is or something else?
My first job out of school was working for a great company at the time, still a great company, and that was Xerox. And I worked there for 3.5 years. And I remember telling my mother I was going to leave the company. And she started crying. How could you possibly leave that company? I got great training from that company. It really helped me understand how an organization works. But I also felt something burning inside of me that I had to do something on my own. And what I would say is find an organization, small or large, that has your like-minded values. That is the best training you could get. And whether you're going to do something entrepreneurial, work for a great company, do it with people who you value, who you trust, and you have a common belief in.
Mr. Tata?
It's not only about the money.
It's not only about the money. Mr. Tata, I mean, I dare say your experience would be different to most people's, but what would be your thoughts on this?
Not quite, but my first job obviously was not with Tatas and was not in India. And I was doing exactly what Howard says. I was very happy doing something in a company where I respected the people and there was a lot of compatibility. I've never been, speaking for myself, driven for money. And perhaps the shining stars that I have interacted with are those that don't consider that to be the prime issue. It's the quality of the job, the motivation that the job gives them. And I think if I could put that in my feelings, I would say that it's nice to get up in the morning and want to go to work because you enjoy what you're doing and you feel you're making a difference. If it's a chore to go to work, then you've got a problem. It's not, in my view, it's not money. There's a level that you need to be comfortable. You don't have to have 3 jobs to make ends meet. But all of that is part of having a feeling that you're making a difference.
He asked about the first job. If I could perhaps ask about the last job. I mean, in the sense that in your cases, you've built such successful companies, such a successful group, Mr. Tata. And now when the time comes to pass on the baton to somebody else, how difficult is that? Or at some point you keep worrying, what is he doing? I wouldn't have done it this way.
I don't think that's how you should pass the baton. I think you should pass the baton as a healthy, robust company with good values, good systems, something that your successor should be proud of, and then he should have his own space. So you should move away. At least that's how I feel.
Is that though easy to do? I mean, in your case, you did step aside, came back in as CEO of Starbucks. So is it as easy?
Yeah, I got it wrong the first time, and I made a mistake. Not because the person who became the CEO is a bad person. It just did not work out. I did not plan to return. Now that I've come back, and I've been here now back 4 years, I realize more than ever the critical importance of getting succession right, as well as the responsibility of the board to help me do this. I'm not leaving anytime soon, but I would think that the successor of Starbucks this time around needs to come from within inside the company, because the culture and values of our company, as well as so many others, are so deeply inside the DNA of the organization. It was very hard for an outsider to be able to understand it and navigate through the challenges of the marketplace.
My question is regarding values being imbibed in the organization. So both the organizations have been part of successful JVs and collaborations world over. So as a future leader, what importance should we give to cultural integration amongst the collaborating organizations so as to take it to a success?
Let me start by saying there have been business ventures which we have not formed joint ventures on, not because the business fit was not good, the business fit was excellent, but the value system was different. And we've stayed away from that. Most of our acquisitions have been with companies many thousand miles away, and we have spent a lot of time ensuring to our satisfaction that the culture of the two organizations are compatible. And then alone do we take that forward. So human chemistry and compatibility of culture, I think, are essential in making a long-term partnership work. And that's what we've been trying to do, and that's what we did with some of the companies that we've joined hands with.
I would say, to be very honest, I think partnerships are very hard, very difficult. And the key for us has been doing the work in the initial stage in which you're really getting to know one another, not each other's company, but getting to know the people, investing the time in understanding the people who are going to be co-authoring the strategy of the JV. The store we've opened, when you walk into the store, what we've tried to do is design an experience that is clearly Starbucks, but through the lens and sensibility and respect of the Indian culture. And I think that has a lot to do with the respect we have for the Tata company, the people we've met, and really, I think, demonstrating a high level of understanding for how to do business here in this country, since we do not have all the answers.
All right, I think we're almost at the end of this. Perhaps if I could just ask the last question to both of you, which is, given the state of India, given where we think we are, sir, given the latest surge of reforms, how comfortable or optimistic are both of you about the future of the Indian economy, and how is it shaping up in connection with where you would like it to be? Mr. Tata?
You know, I've always been very bullish about the Indian economy. I think the robustness of India and the economic fundamentals are very, very good. I think the challenge is that we have to avail of the fundamentals. We have a huge population. We have a great potential to become one of the economic powers of Asia. We have an intelligent human capital. So if you put it all together, we should set our sights high. We should set our standards high. And if we do that, you know, I think India will really be a country on the move. So do I feel confident? Yes, I think the strength of the Indian people and the spirit and the youngness or youth of the nation is going to drive this country to new heights. I feel very, very bullish.
I would echo that completely. Just look at this audience of young, vibrant, smart, curious people, and I think you're a great example of the power that you have and the power of what you represent. We look at India as an outsider of one of the great economies of the world that is emerging with significant resources and capacity. And I think over time, India is going to emerge as one of the great leaders of our society in terms of economic power. And that's why we've come here. And I think it's a great opportunity to grow our business. And I'll end how I started. What a privilege it is for everyone at Starbucks to be in business with one of the great companies, not of India, but of the world. And that is a company that you...
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a great honor for us too.
Thank you.
Right. When you told people you're going to India, though, were there other CEOs who said, yeah, but you're going to get gray hair, it's tough to do business in India?
They said that until we announced the Tata partnership.
And after that, they went back. All right. It's been a pleasure to have both of you with us. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to those cups of coffee.
Thank you,
next time.
Howard.